Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of the 365 Sports Weekly Big 12 newsletter. This being the Baylor video edition. I'm Craig Smoak with you to talk Bears and also write about the Bears as part of our all 16 team coverage with the 365 Sports newsletter of America's Conference, the Big 12. So, talking Bears with you after a week away, not because they had a bye week, but we had some technical snafus with our studio getting worked on. So, thanks for being patient, the millions of you that await these videos with bated breath. But in all seriousness, the Bears are on a bye week, but we're back and no bye weeks planned for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be talking Bears here, so encourage everybody else that you know. And if you haven't already signed up for the 365 Sports weekly newsletter that drops on Wednesdays, you can do so at 365sports.video. So let's get to it. It's better to talk about a win than talk about a loss. And I couldn't imagine doing the Kansas State video newsletter this week with the Wildcats now at 2-4 overall and 1-2 in the Big 12, and their fourth loss by a combined 13 points, I believe is the correct number, after Baylor's thrilling 35-34 victory over Chris Kleiman, Avery Johnson, and the Cats at McLean Stadium. A much needed home win, a much needed win, and a start that you would think is a lot worse based on kind of the temperature of the conversation surrounding the team in its immediate vicinity, the fans of the team, the students, and a lot of the observers like myself, closer than most, somehow coming across as like ultra pessimistic, even though they're 4-2 with having played one hell of a schedule up until this point. And yes, they let a couple of games get away. And in the case of Arizona State in particular, you really let a great opportunity slip through your fingers, but you've also clawed back and won games like you did on Saturday that were this close to being losses instead. You could be K-State talking about 2-4, talking about close loss after close loss, but instead you're 4-2. You're 2-1 in the Big 12, and everything is still out in front of you. So, what a crazy, wild game. I expected it to be that. I didn't know exactly how it would unfold in that fashion, but I thought it would be old school Big 12 with a lot of passing yards, a lot of points. And the points were relatively high, but I think you really saw it in the passing numbers. One of Avery Johnson's biggest passing games in his career. A lot of people having marks like that against this Baylor defense this year, whether as team or individuals. But a crazy back and forth game that lived up to the nuttiness that I anticipated. And I just didn't really have a good feel on, um, exactly how it would unfold other than the chaos part of it. But I did feel like Baylor was going to win this game. And not to toot my own horn, but I do feel like I have a pretty good feel for this program more often than not. Like I'm definitely above passing in terms of predictions. And I think at worst probably have a B, but this one wasn't necessarily easy to call because they're both sort of in the same stratosphere of getting in their way too much to be a really good team or even a good team in some cases, and doing just enough to be a bad team in some cases or a below average team. And so, while wildly different ends of the spectrum when you look at the actual records, complete opposites. But it feels like Baylor's 2-4 sometimes when you kind of think about this team. So turn those frowns upside down. I know it's more big picture, and I'm not trying to tell anybody how to feel, but they are 4-2. I want to keep repeating that because given their schedule, especially in comparison to others, this is what I expected. I mean, at worst, it's a game off. 5-1 would have been great, but you've stolen a couple there at the end, including SMU on the road, and you've found yourself in the Arizona State case of definitely losing the short end of the stick there and losing a close game. So it's gone both ways for you, but I think the world is still their oyster. Every game remaining on the schedule is winnable, including the next one here in a couple of weeks. I think the bye comes at a great time, right at the middle point, fresh off a couple of wins in a row, and a big win over a Kansas State team that if you had put the level of importance next to each game would have graded out definitely in the top half, if not in the top handful of games that you most want to win or that you found were probably the most important to win. Little did we know of what Kansas State was actually going to look like this season, but expectations are off for most teams at this point. I think though for Baylor football, while you may have thought they could have been a 5-1 team or maybe even a 6-0 team if you were like super sunshine pumping, 4-2, 2-1 is not a bad place to be. So I thought Sawyer Robertson had a nice game, especially when you look at like the yardage total of nearly 350 yards, couple TDs, but a really costly pick. You can't have the two turnovers they had driving in to score basically guaranteed points early in a game like this. Um, you can't do it really at any time, but to really set themselves up to dig a little bit of a hole that you eventually win this game by 1 point, but maybe you could have won it by a couple TDs if you hang on to the football. So a costly turnover there by Sawyer, but a decent game from him. No running action whatsoever. That was not the case with his counterpart Avery Johnson, who I said all of last week, and I think everybody who's watched Baylor football is screaming this, and everybody who's watched Kansas State football was screaming this part. Why doesn't Avery Johnson run more? Everybody who's watched Baylor football said if Avery Johnson doesn't run against Baylor, then alarm should sound because he absolutely can run against this Baylor defense and has success. And he definitely did. And I mean, that first touchdown run right at the gut with nobody within what felt like 10 yards of him just felt like right out of the gates, it was going to be a very long day. But again, we're talking about a win at the end of this thing. So that was part of the ebbs and flows. But another quarterback who not only breaks out his run game against you, but also totals over 400 yards because he not only had a big long touchdown run and 72 yards overall, he also threw for 344 on 29 of 45 passing for two TDs and a pick of his own that proved as costly, if not more costly, obviously, than Sawyer Robertson's because his went for direct points there in a critical moment for Baylor. But another big numbers game for a Baylor opponent against this Baylor defense. And so that's just the way that, I mean, 6 games in, that's the way that it is. You try to limit the damage. They were able to do that. You try to get your turnovers back. They were able to even it out. But yeah, that's just these are the types of games they're going to play. And it's just like who makes the plays at the end of the game and just stay in the fight. And I think that's what's going to be most of their schedule the remaining way. I think that's going to be the case against TCU here in a couple of weeks. But um, good to see Michael Turner getting some carries. Really liked what we saw from him, including obviously a fun touchdown run. Bryson Washington, another solid game for him as he's one of your sure things, including a nice touchdown coming out of the backfield. But obviously, the star of the show offensively was Michael Trigg, who is maybe the best tight end in the country. Not sure about overall, although he can throw a block as well. But certainly from a receiving point of view, he's having a really special year at the halfway point. Definitely a Mackey Award contender, if not a favorite at this point, with the way he's being used. And yet, how can you get him more involved is part of the questions, right? Coming out of this game, like how can we get him 10 catches? How can we get him even more? How can we get him in the end zone? But he was massive, 8 catches for 155 yards. Huge game from Trigg, and that's the MVP of this one for sure. Although special teams has something to say about that as well. I have had plenty of years and plenty of seasons where we've talked about the erratic kicking game. And we've talked about the inability to be consistent, the inability to hit from deep. And Connor Hawkins is a special leg that has been special in big moments for Baylor, including in this very game. Um, College kicking is just such an erratic thing. There's so many teams and such little quality kicking in a lot of cases. So to get a guy who can hit those high pressure kicks and hit from such a deep distance as well with a game on the line, it's already proven valuable. But I think it will continue to prove valuable in the rest of this schedule, knowing they're going to play in some more close games. So, 30-yarder there in the first quarter to put you on the board. And then, of course, the 53-yarder with 110 to go that was not the game winner, walk it off, because Lord knows there was more drama to come, but was an absolutely clutch, massive field goal. Your counterpart had just hit a little 22er to take the lead. You're having to hit from 53 with 31 seconds left on the clock. That takes stones, man. It takes a big leg as well. This isn't the NFL where those things are almost automatic at this point. So massive, massive day from Connor Hawkins. And so you could very easily name him the MVP of this game, but you'd also have to throw Jacob Redding in there. Tough day for the defense overall, but his pick six turned the tide and went from taking um, a loss and rolling into the bye week on an L and being at 500. Instead, you're rolling in at 4-2 and feeling good about where you are. But an absolutely massive, huge play of the year candidate type of play by Jacob Redding and Avery Johnson with the critical mistake, as he is wont to do. Both quarterbacks had some throws they'd like to get back. Both also had some big time throws and some big scores. But this particular turnover was deadly for Kansas State. It didn't end the game, but it sparked that belief. It gave the lead back. And although you would have, Kansas State coming back to take the lead right after that, it provided that belief that I think carried Baylor through the end of that thing. So um, go on and on about the specifics of it, but I think to um, have been in the hole that they were in, you can definitely look at it again from a pessimistic view, which I feel like a lot of people are doing, and say, well, now it's another game like SMU where they had to rally and come back. But again, it sure beats the alternative. And maybe you're just one of those teams where you're going to win a lot of close games. That's typically what happens when teams are really good and win a lot of games is they win close games, especially when they have leagues or schedules where a lot of things are close. And Kansas State seems to be on the other side of that. So yeah, you'd like to be more dominant. You'd like to blow teams out, but I would rather be lucky than good any day because if you're lucky enough, it can carry you a pretty long way. And right now, it's at least helped them to 4-2 as opposed to the shoe being on the other foot and being your opponent last Saturday. So, massive fourth quarter rally when things looked out of reach and things looked very despondent. Sawyer Robertson and Michael Trigg, or excuse me, Bryson Washington connecting, the Jacob Redding pick six, and then obviously a big kick, but the cherry on top, the blocked field goal as Kansas State had their own opportunity. Um, just another tidal wave of this game going up and down. Just when you think somebody's made a play to end it, there's another play to come. But this one actually did end things, and it was a massive, massive play for the Bears that obviously ended this football game and helped give them a huge win on the season and a win that now carries them into the bye week. Feeling like everything is still out there for them and everything is attainable. So um, I think I'm going to maintain more of a positive approach, and I'm going to look at the 4-2 as a very positive step into a stretch run that's going to probably be very up and down as well. But I think that if you're Baylor, and I was searching for it, Cooper Lance had the block kick. I could not remember his name here, but I think if you're Baylor, you're feeling good about where you are. I'm feeling good about where they are. Let me know on Twitter or through the show how you feel about where the Bears are right now. I know it's much like this game, a roller coaster, but some absolutely huge plays down the stretch, and Cooper Lands with the big block kick there at the end. What an electric, silly, stressful and yet exhilarating and good win there at the end by the Baylor Bears, who now go into the bye week. Everybody can take a breather, watch some college football this Saturday and enjoy it, but they'll get back to it with the huge revivalry. Not calling it the other thing that's the supposed official name. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. But the rivalry should be a hell of a game because TCU's had a similar season in some ways to the Bears, and I think these two teams are on very much equal footing with two quarterbacks who ought to have a hell of a duel as well. So looking forward to that one. But in the meantime, can enjoy a crazy 35-34 win for the Bears over the Wildcats. Until next time. Thanks for watching the 365 Sports Newsletter Baylor Video Edition. Talk to you next Wednesday. I'm Craig Smoak.